Hello and welcome to episode 11, Multifamily Investing with Bob Biggins. I'm Bob Biggins, and as you can see, we've kind of changed our studio we'll call it. My niece from Pennsylvania sent me a message and said, Uncle Bob, looks like you're laying in bed in your old studio. But really, in reality, it was just a really nice stout oak bed that we turned into a bench, as you can see. So that's where we were, but we're going to change it up a little bit. We've got my channel up above here, and what that is, that's our 10 unit in Paw Paw, Michigan. You come out of the 10 unit apartment complex, rents are between $900 and $1,000 per month. And so you walk out of a $1,000 apartment and you walk out to $1 million view. And that's what I've got as my background, is my actual view coming out of my apartment building. So what are we going to talk about this time? We have evaluated the financial side of a potential deal. We've walked through, did our boots on the ground of the deal, and we have put in our letter of intent or our buy-sell request to the selling broker. So what happens now? Well, the negotiation begins. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. Just what to expect if you've never done this before. You went in with your LOI and your buy-sell agreement, so now what? There's 4 things that you can expect to happen. They can accept, they can decline, they can counter you, which is generally the most typical expectation, the most typical outcome, or they can totally ghost you. Based on what they say, or not say, we'll say, what are you going to do after that with those 4 things? Your accept, decline, counter, or ghost. Well, if they accept, you're going to celebrate because you bought your first multifamily or your first single family house if you want to use that as a rental, or your first single family house, frankly, if you want to use it as your own residence. The process is very similar with a few differences of which we over at ERA Reardon, we can negotiate those and go through those variances very, very easily. But if they decline, what are you going to do if they decline? Make a decision. You can either improve your offer, or you can just let the deal go dead. Sometimes letting the deal go dead is not a terrible thing, oftentimes in commercial, because especially more recently in the last, we're going to say 4 years, around the COVID area, multifamily has gone up in value tremendously. Really, everything's gone up in value, but multifamily as well has gone up in value tremendously. Things that used to sell for $25,000 a door today are oftentimes $75,000 a door. $30,000 a door could be $60,000 a door, just depending on the asset and the location. As time goes on, sometimes sellers get a little more anxious and they may come back to you, or if you have another deal that you could look at, go look at that deal as well and keep putting LOIs out there. Many say that you're going to put in 50 LOIs before you get your first deal. In commercial, that's pretty excessive. Well, not excessive if you're in a big area. If you're in an Atlanta market or a Dallas market, there's that many multifamily properties that are out there that you can put offers in on. Or if you're traveling within, say, a couple hour radius of your home base. But if you're trying to stay within a half hour of your home base, and you're in a more smaller market or rural market, it's tougher to have that many. But nonetheless, what's typically going to happen is they're going to counter. You're going to put an offer in, they're going to counter, and then you can counter them back. Now, based on how they come back to you, you kind of know if they're hungry or not. If it's we'll just say $1 million deal, they come back, it's $1 million list, and they come back, and you come in at, say, 800 and 800,000, and they come down from maybe $1 million to 925. That's a pretty big drop. And they may not have a whole lot left in the tank. Now, if they come down 25,000, that will give you the allure that maybe they're not too hungry to deal yet. You can only make a good deal with somebody who's kind of hungry to get a deal. But based on their response, you can tailor your following response. And if they don't like your counter, then they can either counter or you can change the counter. There's no real rhyme or reason It's just a negotiation back and forth. But your broker or your multifamily real estate agent, such as myself, they would be able to really gauge that counteroffer and really give a pretty solid understanding of where this seller is coming from. If they're aggressively pursuing a deal or very passively pursuing a deal. We obviously want the seller that's aggressively pursuing a deal. Or they can ghost you, or you can ghost them. They send you an offer back and they say, well, it's $1 million offer. We're going to come down to $990. And you're like, and you're not much farther off 800,000, for example. So you can maybe figure you can go to 850, 865 on a push, something like that. And if they come back at 990, you can just ghost them. Say, nah, it's not where we're not in the same place, the two of us. So you can ghost them back. And after the first go around or two, you need to determine many times, are you willing to go back to the well if you've gone back and forth a few times? And do you need to really excrete every last dime out of them? I'll tell you a story about a deal. From memory, I think it was listed a few years ago at 1.35. And it was 16 units. And it was in a neighboring community. And I've been working on this deal. I had a ton of looking at the property, spending time at the property, working with the broker. We finally came down to right around, I believe it was $1 million deal. And I was quite happy with that, really happy. But I got greedy and I went to the well one more time, talking about closing costs and maybe paying for this. And at the end of the day, I lost that deal for $5,000. Think about it. A $1 million deal was blown out of the water for $5,000 because once I went back to the well that last time, we never spoke again. I never got a single feedback from the broker, from the seller, nothing. And they ended up selling it for maybe $20,000 or $30,000 more than what our negotiated price was. So tread lightly, go for your best value, but always remember to tread lightly if you're really wanting to take on this asset. If you're like, well, I can take it or leave it, there's other deals similar, then you can go for it. But if it's really not a lot of these type of assets in your market, and you're like, oh, it's just me and the seller right now, there's no other competing offers, settle for a bad deal, but this way I'm leaving a little meat on the bone for them, that they're happy and I'm happy enough. But at the end of the day, I get the asset. Just other things to consider, and I know this maybe sounds redundant, but if you're going back and forth and because sometimes you're talking about $100,000 at a time. They're big dollars you're negotiating back and forth. Could be. Or it could be $10,000 and maybe that's quite a big deal. Or $5,000, or even sometimes you get into like the $1,000 or $2,000 people get into. But how good is the deal? Like I said before, in a neighboring market, we have many side-by-side 1970s built duplexes. There's lots of them. Lots. Probably hundreds of them. They're pretty similar. There's neighborhoods of them. Pretty, I'm going to say cookie cutter almost. So in that arena, if this deal is maybe $200,000, that's a good deal. And it's not in too bad a shape, or it's things that you can do pretty handily. Or if it's $280 and you're coming in at like $255, then it's not a great deal. You know another one's going to be around in a couple of weeks or a month or two. So maybe it's not a good deal. Just give yourself a gut check. You can get carried away in the negotiation and really get amped up. And as your real estate agent, that's my job, to just keep everybody grounded. The seller and seller's agent, as well as the buyer. Keep everybody, if it's a business transaction, we want what's best for both parties, and calmer heads will prevail. How good is the market? There's some markets that are in A location, some markets are B location. A neighborhood, B neighborhood. A street, 10th of a mile away on B street. Could be totally different markets. So do you love this market? Is it, boy, it's right next to a school, or they're building a whole new Whole Foods right here, or they're building a brand new apartment complex by there. Little worrisome. Those are the things, the market. Do you like that area of town? Do you like that city? Do you like that zip code? All things to really think about when you're getting into the nitty gritty of doing your evaluation of your negotiation process. How good is the asset or the neighborhood? Is the place not a fix and flip, but is it a value add? Or is it really don't need to do a whole lot to it and it's got a decent price to it? And are the neighbors good? All the neighbors look around. Wow, lawns are kept nice. The snow is all shoveled or plowed. All the street lights are working. All the street signs are up. The sidewalks are nice and smooth. What's the neighborhood like? Because oftentimes, like I said, can be 1 block or 2 blocks away. Things are not as good. Do you really love the market you're in, that neighborhood that you're in? And that can drive your decision making on how high to go or how many times to go back to that seller. What position are you in with your family, your finances, your workload, your availability? Maybe you just got put on night shift, and that may help or hurt your family life career. Something to take into account, and just keep that in mind and try to see your way through it. Maybe outside services, your brother-in-law is a contractor, and we know when we take this deal down that I'm going to be able to, he's going to work with me, and then he's going to buy a property, and I'm going to work with him. Oh, he's got a major deal, and it's going to take 45 days for me to close, and he just took on a project that's going to take him 90 or 100 days, a big commercial job, unavailable. All comes into the equation. Just got to think of all the things holistically. How much is this deal going to be worth in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years? I've had many deals that, well, not many, but my first few deals I paid too much for. My triplex I bought in St. Joe Township, I probably paid, gosh almighty, probably $19,000, $25,000, even $30,000 too much. Of course, today, it is 3 times that value. So what's your time horizon? I bought that back in 1998, and people are thinking, they're looking at this video saying, well, how in the world, how can I think that far ahead? Believe it or not, once you get these assets cleaned up, fixed up, established, get residents in them, the clock is ticking. And every month goes by, your kids are getting older, your car's getting older, but that asset just keeps sending mailbox money month after month after month, and those months just keep churning by. And when you have a few doors, sometimes you get no calls all month, not a single call for a whole quarter. You may not get one single call, especially if you go in early on and really do any upgrades, things that will prevent you from having to come back, such as faucets dripping and breakers popping and other things like that. If you take care of a lot of that stuff when you either buy it or within the first year or two of when you buy it, when people move out, then oftentimes you negate a lot of these nuisance calls over the next several years. Pretty much anything you buy will be a good deal likely in several years to come. Just it depends on your hold period. Oftentimes the professionals in larger multifamily, they have a 5-year hold, and they know going in what their exit strategy is, and I recommend that to you as well. Are you going to hold it for 5 and refinance? Are you going to hold it for 7 and refinance? Are you going to sell it in year 8 when your children are going to college? What's your exit strategy? And your exit strategy may change. My exit strategy, at least right now, is not to sell, because I've sold probably half dozen properties, close to a dozen, probably 9, 8 or 9, and every one I wish I had back, because they've all doubled in value. Hindsight, I was able to use a lot of that cash to do other deals, but pretty much all of them I wish I would have kept. So now we're just holding on, because the situation is, once you sell a property, what are you going to do with that money? Again, you could put a child through college, you can do upgrades on your own personal house, but have a basic strategy of what your time horizon is going into the deal. And remember, when you're doing a deal like this, you're just doing the initial negotiation. You're inking a buy-sell agreement, which will likely have an inspection contingency, or you're inking a letter of intent that will have an inspection due diligence period. Those two things allow you to go in and bring an inspector in, inspect yourself, bring professionals in, bring electricians, plumbers, HVAC contractors, general contractors, bring people in to evaluate your deal. And if you find something that's significant, then you go back to the seller and say, I know we had this price inked, but this is something that's really significant that I didn't realize on our initial walkthrough. And then the negotiation starts again. So there's always that. So once you ink an initial deal, unless you go no inspection, then it's pretty much a done deal. Unless there's things that were listed in the disclosure agreement that were false. The disclosure in residential multifamily is still the Bible. They have to put in there what is known. If it's way off what that is, then they have there's a legal recourse that they should have put more clear terminology in their disclosure agreement. But other than that, there's always a renegotiation period if there are things that are found. And on most assets, unless it's a really, remember our class of assets, if it's a class A or even a really nice class B, you're probably going to find some things that you didn't realize. And you can either forego that if you got a great deal, or you can go back and talk to the seller if there's some things that you really think ought to be addressed. And myself, I've done this many, many times, and I can work through that with being a buyer's agent on multifamily in many contexts. So always reach out if you need an agent. I will work on your behalf and walk you through all these steps and give you all the pros and cons of each. So let's close this episode assuming you've inked a deal, and your next episode will follow you through the process of successfully closing your transaction. So until then, like and subscribe on my video, and we'll see you on episode 12 of Multifamily Investing with Bob Biggins. So long.